what? Rolling, 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 what? Rolling, 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 what? Rolling, 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 what? We're Limp Bizkit fans in this house, okay? It's good? Yeah, it's pretty good. All right. Welcome back to nodeoutme. I'm kind of yelling. Sorry. I don't have a good quality microphone. I'm still poor. When I get rich, I'll get a better microphone. Okay. So, welcome to nodeoutme. Papi Steve, Mr. Russell here. And kind of wanted to backpedal from my last video a little bit. I was putting a lot on the shoulders of the Monarchs in 1776. But to save us from assembly line, working on the line, and spend our lives as employees, I just kind of wanted to clarify that that was my own perspective at the time. You know, it was 1776. You know, we were engaging in the Revolutionary War action ourselves at the time. So I just kind of wanted to point out that it was our governments that Adam Smith, thought would save us from employment. And not just the kings and queens. And the reason this is important is this is an area where I'm kind of confused. And so this is an area, it's probably a good time to say this is kind of edition 1 of what's wrong with this world. And edition 1 is a nice way of saying inexpensively produced version with not like editing or any bells and whistles or anything like that. So this is the version that's, just kind of crawl before it walks. And in that regard, I'm not a world history guy, so I don't know all this part, but I've been trying to learn about it, trying to understand it, because now I'm starting to realize how important it is. In the nick of time, at 62, I went, this history's kind of significant. So, no, I've known it's always been, but it's, I guess what is happening now is I'm starting to find these little things in history that are revealing, I'm actually searching for answers to things in history, and one of those things that I went searching for, and I can't say that I've got a handle on this, so maybe the second edition of What's Wrong with This World will fill this in a little bit better. But I kind of went looking at world history to try to understand, what had come before employee and what had come before company. And, I can't say I've got a really clear answer. I mean, there's, a lot of really old stuff before 250 years ago that is not super relevant now. And I say that because 250 years ago, age of revolutions, we kind of rewrote the planet. We rewrote our governance and a lot of stuff. So it's hard for me to kind of get a handle on, what came before. Now, I think the dominant role people played in society, unfortunately, from like 3000 BCE, when we say history started, written documents about what was going on, of what people were saying was happening. Back then, I would guess that you were just kind of wandering around, and then if you could beat other people up, they were your slaves, or if you were getting beat up, you were a slave. I don't think there was really structured stuff. There might have been, chieftains and stuff like that, but, there were people that were treated wrongly, and I kind of walked through history, and I can't say there's really, a really good time in history for individuals. If you're an emperor, you're golden. If you're a king or queen, you're looking good. Otherwise, you're probably a slave. Or, if I understand this part correctly, the more recent stuff is you were maybe in like England, you were tied to the land, you were a peasant, and the lords were in charge of you. They were the boss of you. I think kind of how it worked. And, of course, the king was over the lords. So it's not right to say like the monarchy owned you, but, you were peasants and, you should sharecrop the land. And they'd always have the reeve would come around and collect your shares for when you were sharecropping, which is where sheriff came from, the Share-reeve. Sorry, stumbled across that in my history stuff. I was like, the Share-reeve? The sheriff? What? Anyway, the guy that went to go, that's why the sheriff of Nottingham is worried about collecting stuff in Robin Hood. That was their job back then, is to collect taxes. That's the sheriff's job. Oh, wow. It's just, modern sheriffs are just super cool. Wasn't that a cool job that's evolved over time? Where now sheriffs are, keeping the peace in our counties here in Oklahoma. All right, so back to world history. So you were a slave, probably. You might have been one of the few people that had some buckage, but you were probably a slave, or you were probably a peasant, I guess. Some people were probably slaves of lords, I guess. Anyway, those two things were probably how you were titled. Now, I don't know what somebody that is in an empire, I don't know what those are called. Empire peoples? Yeah, or empirines? I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that if you were to try to total up and do like a Pareto chart by job title of what job title did most people on Earth ever have. Unfortunately, with things like the pyramids and the Great Wall in mind, I'm thinking slave might be one of those job titles that's going to rank up pretty high on, the total number of people. And I guess, Adam Smith wouldn't say this, but I guess we were saved by employment. No. I mean, our modern society, I think, is based upon that premise. And, people like waving the capitalism flag saying, well, capitalism isn't perfect, but it's the best thing we've come up with so far. It's like saying, I hope I get a Q-tip later. Right now I'm just sticking this stick in my eye, but I hope I get something softer to stick in my eye later. Just saying it's the best system for now. It's just, I don't know. I get it. It's just one of those things that we've picked up over the years. Ignorance to the law is no excuse. I am hosed, y'all. I do not know all the laws. But it's one of those phrases. I get it, because you can't go around not knowing about what the rules are, but ignorance to the law is no excuse is a pretty steep standard, to have for any society. Especially when, like I said earlier, there's someone's promoted ideas, promoted writings. All right, so I guess I just really wanted to kind of take and think about the context of employment and how, I guess we're in good company with, it just seems to me like sometimes, I have this skit in my mind, and I don't know if it's a Monty Python skit or an SNL skit or something, but it's like a skit where a bunch of slave owners are talking about how expensive slavery is getting and how they're trying to figure out a way to cut down. And they're like, man, if we could just figure out a way to have, the slaves, the room and board is killing us. And, to keep them going, we've got to pay the doctor. That's turning out to be these medical costs. Room and board, the food, man, if there was some way we could just let them go every day, at 5 o'clock. And let them fend for themselves, and somehow figure out a way to make them want to come back the next day. Okay, so I'm being catty. Yeah, I know. And there's a lot of really great things you can do in your life, for your employments. But there's also a lot of not so great stuff. And there's no reason the things that you do that you love for your employments need to be something you do for money. That's the way the system works, but you should be doing the stuff you love because you love to do it. So we're not currently talking about how we're going to fix this world yet. We're still kind of focused on what's wrong with this world. And the main message I just want to kind of convey is that, when it comes to the major job descriptions for all of human history, slave, peasant, and employee are probably the big high-numbered items. From just like a general roles standpoint, and it's not all that great when you've got, the father of capitalism lobbying for human development and enrichment. Like the type of things like my wife and I try to do with our rescue cats. Enrichment. Yeah, we're talking about human enrichment. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying employment can't be it, but I know for a lot of people it's not. And lesser so nowadays. You know, you got the gig economy where people are like, oh gosh, this is so nauseating. I'm just going to try to stitch together 3 somewhat palatable roles to play in this community and to try to live off of those for a while. You know, it's like, wow. So, yeah, well, what's wrong with this world? I don't know. Well, I'm really not too encouraged by, you know, some overlord type role diminishing some lesser role. You know, it's whether it be slavery or peasantry or employment. You know, I'll have to admit, one of the most stuck phrases in my life, I've said my entire life, and I say it today because it's still comical and cute because little kids say it, and that's, you're not the boss of me. And it kills me to think my dad was a window washer my whole life, sole proprietor, bucket of water with ammonia, washing one window at a time his whole life, wife and 4 kids, wonderful job, and my whole life I'm thinking, oh, I know, I'm going to go learn all these great things to be so I can be part of the machine. Oh, it's just to think my humble father, you know, the guy who taught me how to clean toilets, guy who told me how to mop floors, wash windows, janitorial services supreme expert, knew his business. You know, and I just thought, oh man, you know, I just got this disillusioned idea that I was going to make it big someday. And I now realize, you know, he raised a great family with a loving wife and loving kids and just a boring old upbringing in America, the best type of boring you can have. Riding my bicycle around my, you know, 3 square mile town most of my life. Whoa, man, I can't ask for a better life. But I'm getting worried about, you know, the future for our kids. So it's time for us to kind of sit back and look and go, do we have it all figured out? And do we all know for sure that we have a good handle on what's wrong with this world? Come back.